If you're concerned about the future of our country, join the club. But I would argue now's not the time to give up faith. Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. If you share my concerns, maybe you could like this video, subscribe to this channel, maybe even click that little bell that will notify you when I post something new. So among progressives like me, religion has kind of gotten a bad name. You know, there are these Christians who claim to be all Christian and everything and wanted to kneel down in front of the cross. I just saw a sign saying that the other day. And yet these are the same people who want to exclude immigrants from our country and not feed and clothe the poor, and who worship at the altar of people like Donald Trump, who seem to be the antithesis of everything that Jesus stood for. I mean, I remember those bracelets that said WWJD. What would Jesus do? And I'm pretty sure Jesus would not behave the way Donald Trump behaves or the way many of these so-called Christians behave nowadays. So it's easy for us to become, pretty disillusioned with religion, let's say. But I think most Americans, including progressives, want to have some kind of spiritual connection. I think that's part of the appeal that Pete Buttigieg had in his candidacy for presidency. Here was a guy who seemed the ultimate in so many contradictions. He was a mayor from Indiana running for president of the United States. He was a gay man who'd served as an officer in the military in combat, and yet he could speak with incredible authority and passion about his spiritual beliefs. I think as progressives, we know that what we're fighting for, things like equality and justice, are exactly the kinds of things that Jesus would be in favor of. Then why does it seem like Jesus has abandoned our cause? Well, the way I'm able to maintain faith is by simply looking back on my life and realizing that all the times that I'm about to lose faith, well, you know, I've been through this before. I guess it's one of the benefits that comes with being a 54-year-old man in this day and age. I've seen a few things. I've been through a few things. And while I do find everything that's going on in our country and in the world really very scary right now, I have to say I do believe that there is some greater purpose that's being served, and that somehow this will all work out. Might not be on our time, might not be the way we envision it, but it'll be certainly on God's time and the way that God envisions it. And again, I know this by looking back on my life. I mean, if you saw my other video about my career, then you'd know that I'm somebody who came relatively late to this career of being a college professor. And I gotta tell you, I love it. I love every minute of it. I love working with the students. I love doing the research. Some of the service, being on committees and all that, well, I could take it or leave it. But, a lot of it is actually kind of interesting. Recently, I was asked by my department chair if I'd be willing to teach an extra class, essentially do an overload, because they had a faculty member who was unable to teach as a result of the coronavirus. And she apologized to me about the limited amount of extra money she'd be able to offer me for teaching it. Now, don't tell her I said this, but the truth of the matter is, I love teaching it. I would do this stuff for free if I could find some way to pay my bills otherwise. So I was thrilled to do it, and, the extra money was nice, of course, but, that wasn't the prime motivation for it. So how did I end up here? As I say, it was kind of a long and winding road. I remember when I was in high school once, my grandfather said that the two things he could envision me being were either a judge or a college professor. And working as a lawyer, I came to realize that being a judge can be kind of boring too. So I'm extremely happy where I'm at. So how did I end up here and kind of what took me off this path? Well, when I was in college, I became enamored with politics. I actually started out as a political science major because I'd kind of always had an interest in politics, but it was really in college where I started to get involved in it. Not only did I realize that I was fascinated with politics, but actually I was pretty good at it. I remember one of my friends saying to a prospective employer that Mike's never lost a campaign he worked on. And at the time, that was true. It turns out that politics just made sense to me somehow. I remember I was never a great chess player when I was in high school or earlier in my life. My dad kept trying to teach me to play, but I just never really got it. But then after I graduated from college, after I'd been working in politics for a while, I remember I went for a long weekend with some friends, and somebody had a chessboard, and we all ended up playing chess against each other. And I ended up beating every single person in this group. And these were some smart people in this group. And the reason was that I'd come to understand strategy, not by playing chess, but through politics. Ironically, chess as a game was designed by kings to teach their nobility how to engage in war, how to think strategically. But for me, it was the opposite way. Doing politics helped me understand strategy, which then I could apply to chess. So after college, I went to work in politics. I believed that I was on a mission out to change the world, to elect progressive people, and to help America get on the right path. And then I proceeded to lose a whole series of campaigns. Oh my God, it was terrible. I worked on one campaign for governor of Massachusetts. And literally, I remember saying to somebody, we were working on it for a year and losing the entire time. And there was really nothing we could do about it. We kept trying. We never gave up until a week before the primary when the candidate dropped out of the campaign. That pretty much ended it there. That was pretty disappointing. And then after that, it kind of was catch and catch can. I had some wins, I had some losses. Ultimately, though, one of my big wins was after I'd come to Michigan and met my wife and gotten married, I was involved in the campaign for mayor here in Warren, Michigan's third largest city. We were running against a major player in state politics and somebody whose family was well known here. In fact, the candidate's father, our opponent's father, had been a mayor of Warren in the past. So this was like running against the Kennedys here practically, and we ended up winning. I then worked for about 10 years for Mark Steenberg, that candidate who became mayor, and he was a great boss and a great mayor, and I couldn't imagine myself working for anybody else in politics after that. So I said to myself, well, you know what? Mark is term limited, so I need to figure out something else to do. So I figured, hey, I'll follow that advice that my grandfather had years ago, and I'll become a lawyer. So I went to law school. I managed to get through law school very quickly. I started my own law practice, and things were going pretty well, actually. But lo and behold, it turned out I hated it. I hated practicing law. I loved helping people. I loved working with my clients. I loved making a difference in their lives. I even loved being in court. But what I hated was this constant sense of crisis that you were in. I mean, people never go to see a lawyer unless they've got a problem. People don't come to see a lawyer and they say, hey, we've got good news. That's never the beginning of a conversation someone has with a lawyer. So frankly, it was kind of depressing being a lawyer. And it really started to get to me. I started to think to myself, man, if I need to do this for the rest of my life, I don't know if I can do this. So after a while, I started to look around, and I remembered a statement that I made to my clients time and again when I'd explain to them a certain obscure aspect to the law, and I'd say to them, I think I'm a frustrated teacher. And I realized that teaching is really where my passion lay. So I ended up going back to graduate school a second time, and I earned my PhD in business management. I remember when I first heard that I'd gotten into the PhD program, it was like such a relief. I remember going to church afterwards and thanking God for giving me some hope, where I'd pretty much lost hope with my life. I thought I'd be spending my entire life working as a lawyer, helping people, yes, but miserable and working long hours just the same. This gave me hope that I'd be able to actually do something that I loved. But then came the fear that this would all come to naught. I mean, there were so many moments where this could have all failed. After all, unlike many people who graduate with PhDs, I had a family, I had a home. I had a business here in Michigan. I couldn't just pick up and move somewhere halfway around the world. I couldn't pursue the job opportunities wherever they were. And lo and behold, a university just down the street from me, well, 25 minutes away, so a long street from me, had a job opening, and it was like tailor-made for me, and I ended up getting it, and here I am now, and I absolutely love it. It turns out that my grandfather's prediction of me was at least partially true. I'm a college professor, and I love it. The point is, though, that at each of these junctures, things could have gone wrong, things could have gone off track, but all along there, you can see that there was some planning there. There was some reason there. People might say that I'm ascribing rationality to random events, or that the reason I'm here is because I worked hard. But the truth of the matter is, lots of people work hard. They end up in different places. And there are lots of times that I applied for different jobs and didn't get them, or thought there were other opportunities and didn't get them. I even ran for office once and lost, which was very painful, I can tell you that. But the truth of the matter is, I'm much happier now doing what I'm doing now than I would have been as an elected official, frankly. So when I look back on my life, I think to myself, there's just too much organization, too much reason, too much rationality to things that have happened for me to say that there's not some kind of plan in effect. Frankly, for me to say otherwise would be ignoring the facts. Now, the truth of the matter is, if God is taking care of me, little old me, and making sure that I am able to find my passion and my joy in my life, how can I assume that God is not doing the same thing for the United States? Many times I wondered where my path was going and why it was ending up somewhere, but yet God the whole time was taking me someplace which was even better. I might not see how the United States is going to extricate itself from the current crisis we find ourselves in, but that doesn't matter because I have faith based upon my own experience that there is some reason and some rationale as to how this is all going to work out. I would urge you to look back on your own life and see the influence of God or Allah or some higher power or some spirituality, the universe, whatever you want to call it. But at least acknowledge the fact that there's something more out there with plans that are being put into effect. And that thing wouldn't make us go through everything that we're going through without some kind of purpose. That's what ultimately gives me faith. I hope you find some comfort in this personal revelation of mine. But if you don't, you might want to take some advice from an even wiser man than myself, and that was Abraham Lincoln, who gave my favorite speech of all time, the second inaugural speech. And if Abraham Lincoln could have faith in the middle of the Civil War, well, we can have faith today. If you want to check out that speech, you might want to check it out on this video that I recorded last Thanksgiving. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.